So hello to everyone coming in and everyone already seated, who I like more. My name is Bri Castellini, if you have not met me. I am Stareable's Community Director, webinar host, podcast host, and a variety of other things. And if that sounds like a lot, it is, but it's because Stareable has a lot to offer filmmakers, and that's exactly what this presentation is going to look at. I'm basically going to take you through our platform, the thing that Stareable does the other 362 days a year, so that you can understand how to leverage what we're making and what we're still iterating on to be more successful filmmakers. Before I get started, I want to emphasize, so if there's anything that you think that you would suggest to us in terms of the things I'm showing you off today, anything that you think that we need to add or change or increase, or just any random idea that you think would make it easier for you to be a filmmaker on the internet, send me an email after the presentation. Everything that we build is with you in mind. Everything that we have built is almost 100% of the time directly influenced by something a filmmaker has said to us, either at the festival or one-on-one online or at a variety of our other events that we put on throughout the year. So again, we're going to look at the product, you're going to ask me some questions, and if you have some ideas, I would love to hear from you afterwards. So with that, what is Stareable? Well, broadly, we're the largest community of web series creators, but more specifically and concretely for all of you filmmakers out there, we are a set of tools and features, an audience building platform to make it easier for you to take control of your audiences, manage them, grow them, and don't feel like your soul is slowly dying every single day. The soul dying ending is the thing that I am most excited about. So how do we actually help manage your life a little bit easier? How do we make it so that your soul is safe for one day more? Well, let's get into that. So this is what a standard page on Stareable.com looks like. It's totally free to have a page with us. You don't have to give us any content. We don't own your IP in any way. And once you submit a series to our platform, this is the front page. This is exactly what it's going to look like. So this is an example from my series, Salmon Patter Depressed. And, you know, thank you. Shout out. Now you all understand why I'm doing this. It's just for me. Screw Stareable. Anyways, no, we can't do jokes like that because Ajay's here. So this is basically your basic page. You've got all the things that you've come to expect, you know, your categories, your show title, your key art, your description, as well as all of your social media accounts. And something that I really want to emphasize up top, because obviously I am also a filmmaker, but something you might not know about me is that I have had my own website since I was 12 years old. I have 3 domains, and that's something that I'm very comfortable with. And it's also something that I didn't feel the need to do for my most recent web series. And I'm not saying this because I'm up here as a shill for Stareable. I'm saying this because I am a filmmaker who is exhausted. And having a Stareable page to point people to that has all of the information that I need them to understand about my series was a tremendous, tremendous benefit to me as a person, as a human being. And I really want to make that clear, because the thing that Stareable is most proud of and the thing that we are working towards most, fervently is that we want to become the one link to rule them all, in a sort. I think that everyone in here can relate to the fact that to be a content creator on the internet is to be a collector of URLs. You have your Patreon, you have your Seed and Spark, you have your Twitter, your Facebook, your other Facebook, your 3 other Twitter accounts, your Instagram, your everything like this. And it can get really, really frustrating, not only to your audience to have to go from place to place to place to find all of your content and find out how they can best engage with your story, but it's also really frustrating as a creator to have those 18 logins that you have to constantly upkeep on 18 different platforms and check out the analytics that are completely different from place to place and have an audience that gets fatigued every time you have to move them. So what Stareable is trying to do is collect all of your audience into one place to make it easier for you to have one link to send out, regardless of if you want people to watch your show, learn about it, get an update on it, get supplemental content, or even to give you money. We want you to only have to do one thing, which is to share your Stareable link and let the site do the rest as you are using our tools to bring people into it. And obviously from a creator side, which we'll get into later on in this presentation, we want to make it easier for you to not have to log into 18 different websites in order to update all of those. We want to make it easier for you so that you have more time to actually create and have to spend less time remembering what your password is on Twitter account number 3. So speaking of being able to watch the web series, obviously you've got an episode embed up here, which has been a really cool development. For us, we released the new series of this show back in March, and what we did is every week we changed this sort of promoted video that first comes up when you go to the page to the new episode of the week. And because we had trained our audience to look to Stareable for any new information, whether that was text and supplemental content or video content, anytime they went to our page, the most updated stuff was there. So that was a really powerful way for us to train an audience to understand and expect what to do when they wanted to hear more from us. So let's move to the next little tab down there. Cast and crew. Another thing that should be pretty straightforward, these are the people, the hashtag credit the credits, thank you Dropbox, who made our series possible. And if you were to click on any of these pages, you would get to their individual profile. So this is just a portion of my individual profile on Stareable.com that gives you a headshot, a little bit bio that I customized, as well as a list of every single project that I have made in the web series space, which as you can see, accounts for a lot. And this has become a really great visual way for me to share with people what I'm working on in one visually appealing place. And again, I only had to send them one link, and they could find this really easily on the exact same platform and then easily get back to whichever page they started on. Or they could hop to the next show that they thought that they wanted to see based on being a fan of me or the original series they looked at. So let's move on over one more to our final tab, updates. And now this is one we're going to spend a lot of time on, both for this screen, the thing that the people see when they go to your page, as well as what happens behind the scenes. But starting out in front of the page, this is your updates feed. This is a fairly new feature that at least as it interacts on Stareable.com, is something where you can share information and content that isn't necessarily a new episode or a new cast and crew member, so that you can keep people engaged and continuing to train them to go to your Stareable page, even if you're in between episodes, in between seasons, or in between projects. So as an example, the first two posts that you can see here that you could clearly just read more of, regardless of what your account looks like, this is a cool thing that we did for season 2. So my show is obviously about mental health and living with mental illness, but in like a fun way. And what we did is we reached out to other filmmakers in our community who we knew struggled with mental illness and who were also artists, and we did a series of interviews with them where we talked about mental health and how they navigated their art despite their mental health and because of their mental health. And we published those interviews on our Stareable Updates feed, which allowed us to have a conversation that we thought was incredibly important to be having in media these days. We got to promote artists that we didn't ordinarily get to work with so that their work could be seen by more people. And every single person who read one of these interviews was doing so on our Stareable page. And because they were reading an interview about art and mental health, and because we were a web series about art and mental health, that worked as a natural organic marketing tool that let us do all those things I just listed and get more views for our series. So this is one of the really powerful ways that just having one link and one sort of home base for your series can really start to multiply the types of people that you're getting to your content. But I'm sure you're also kind of eyeballing these two lock posts at the bottom of this feed. So these are what happens when you have Stareable Enrich enabled on your page. Stareable Enrich is our monetization tool that empowers creators to offer freemium content on their Stareable pages. So alongside the stuff you're releasing for free, your episodes, your cast list, a couple interviews and supplemental content, you can also choose to lock certain content behind a paywall that you decide on, so that the fans that want a little bit more, or who, shall we say, want an enriched experience with your series, can get that, again, right here on the platform. You don't have to send them to a new link to a whole new account that they have to sign up for. On the same page, they can watch your show, learn about it, get updates, and give you financial support so you can continue creating. So let's actually talk about Stareable Enrich a little more specifically. So back to the sort of main page, at the top of pages that have enabled Stareable Enrich, you can see this little support show button. And that's a pretty, clear CTA. I want to support this show. I think it's awesome. And for the record, this show really is. If you click on that, you are then taken to the Stareable Enrich page. So right now we have it enabled for up to 2 monthly tiers for ongoing support, which I think is pretty uniquely important to web series creators in particular, because we want to make multiple episodes. So, fundraising at one time might work for a little while, but ultimately what you're looking for is a sustainable career and a sustainable show. So this is sort of our way of addressing that. You can decide which, amounts you want to do. You can totally decide on what you want to offer. Or for those of you who might have fans that are a little afraid of commitment, you can also add a one-time donation button with custom text. So our custom text is give us money, we're depressed, because that's just the kind of people we are. But the possibilities are endless. You can use it for a variety of things, and this is just sort of the basic of how you can start monetizing your content and monetizing your fans who have already gotten trained that Stareable is the place for where they should find stuff about your show. So let's move to the back end. That's all the stuff that is already super awesome and is already great for engaging and keeping the interest of an audience, but we also have a suite of tools that are all behind the scenes just for creators to, once again, make our lives easier and make us not die in the soul variety. So this is your dashboard. If you have a show on our site, then this is probably pretty familiar to you because it's where your account defaults once you log in after having a show on our site. But I just wanted to walk you through it because there's a lot of things on here that, while they may seem basic, can really influence the decisions you're making in marketing and talking about your show. So, we've got our 3 categories here. We've got show stats, update stats, and supporter stats. So let's look at show stats. So show stats are probably what you expected. Your page views, your review counts, and what I really want to point you to is this sort of week-over-week metrics. You can see how things are going from 2 weeks ago to this week to start to understand what decisions you're making that are actually getting you engagement. Because I think something that as filmmakers we forget sometimes is that while we're doing 18 different things to market our series, only maybe 6 of them are actually working. And on a week-over-week basis, you really want to be paying attention to these numbers. So if 1 week you're doing a lot of really high impact, video behind the scenes content, and then 1 week you're just doing a lot of Instagram lives, and the week for Instagram lives you saw a lot higher page views, maybe you want to consider shifting some of your focus to the things that are actually working. And analytics can be a really powerful way of understanding that, because we're all exhausted just from making our show. But then of course we know that we have an additional duty, which is to market that show, which becomes, a snowball effect of a longer job position than we were really expecting. So understanding what things are actually worth investing time into is going to be really powerful to make sure that you are making the best decisions, not only for your show, but for you. A lot of our panelists have been talking about, taking care of yourself and making sure that you as a producer and a creator are in a safe environment and you are healthy enough to continue working. And one of the ways that you can do that and ensure that is to understand that everything you do doesn't have to be perfect, and that it's totally okay to stop doing things that aren't working. It's not a failure that your Twitter campaign for the past couple of weeks just isn't bringing in what you want. So go ahead and relieve yourself of the guilt of stopping these things and just pay attention to what's actually working and what things you really want to invest your time in. So let's move over to update stats. So this is where you're going to start to see the additional wrinkle in what Stareable Updates has to offer. So of course you've already seen the feed on your Stareable page where you can lock posts behind financial tiers or you can offer them for free. But on the back end, you can also post and schedule content to any amount of Twitter pages and any amount of Facebook pages, which has, from me to you, completely changed my life. I know that there are other social media management tools out there, but Stareable gives you the ability to on an unlimited basis, just connect everything you need to and manage it all from one place. I don't have to log into Buffer and Hootsuite and all these other places and then all of my social media. I just have to log into Stareable to manage and understand and analyze everything that's happening on my social feeds. So, obviously in each of these little categories, I'd be able to see what things were working for Twitter and Facebook and all of my Stareable posts. And in tandem with the stats above it, I can start to understand, this week I was posting on Twitter about certain stuff. And as I can see from my show stats, we weren't getting as many clicks. So maybe we want to go back to a week that we were seeing a lot more click-throughs on the show page and focus on that kind of social media engagement. Or, for instance, if 1 week I'm posting on Facebook more often than I am on Twitter, I can directly see the result of what those posts are doing on their own platforms and how they're reflecting in the views on my actual web series. So again, a one-stop shop to fully understand what is worth your time and what's worth maybe revisiting at a later time. So finally, we have supporter stats, which again, should be pretty expected. So these are how many supporters you have at any of your individual tiers. Obviously, this would be customized depending on what your tier amounts are, but you can also see your donations, your total expected monthly income, and again, you can see how it's changed week to week. So that once again, you can analyze, these are the things I was posting on social media last week, this is how many new supporters I got, or how many supporters I lost as a result of that. So you can see the direct results of your efforts and start to make more informed decisions for which efforts are actually worth continuing. So let's talk about Stareable Updates a little bit more so that you can kind of see how it works, because it is a social media management tool as well as a way to communicate with your audience textually, even in between seasons and episodes, and it's an incredibly powerful tool that I think that more people should be tapping into in order to like make their lives a lot easier. So the first thing you'll see is obviously I have connected a number of pages to this Stareable page. This is not all of the social media accounts I have access to, which will surprise no one in this room, but for the purposes of this demonstration, let's say that these are the places that I want to post to. I want to post to my Stareable page, my Sam and Pat Are Depressed page. I want to post to Facebook, and I want to post to Twitter. Just these accounts, but as you can see, I can check as many boxes as I like, and I can continue to add accounts if for some reason I enter a fugue state and start 5 new Twitter accounts, which happens about once a quarter. So once I do that, this is where we start to compose things. So as you can see, there's a compose box for each one of the platforms, so you can make sure that you post a little shorter version on Twitter, but then with Facebook and Stareable, where you have a little bit freer character counts, you can obviously add more information, but you only have to do it at this one time, so you don't have to compose like 8 different things. You can add photos, you can check your character counts to make sure that the thing is actually going to post to social media. And on the Stareable page side, as you can see, there's a little drop-down menu, and this is the point where you can decide if this post is going to go to everyone or to just the people that are giving you money. So as an example of how we use this, especially the scheduling thing that we'll get to next, when my show was airing its 2nd season, one of our Stareable Enriched tiers, the $5 tier, was early access to episodes. We upload episodes every Monday morning for, the globe, the internet, the universe, but for people who subscribe to our $5 Stareable Enriched tier, they got those episodes on Saturday morning. So I, in one afternoon, not only scheduled 10 weeks worth of early access, but I also scheduled 10 weeks worth of all of my other social media content. So in one afternoon, I almost completely automated all of my marketing efforts for my web series, and let me tell you, it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. I was able to do so many things that I couldn't do before, like sleep and sleep. And I cannot overstate enough how much like the ability to automate your life, automate your marketing efforts, the stuff that we all hate doing anyways, can like how much it can help your mental health and also help your show, because you don't have to be responsible for remembering every Tuesday at 9 p.m. I need to post something. Why worry about that at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday when you could have just done it on a Saturday morning and then gone about the rest of your day, got lunch, sleep, whatever you want to do. So using Stareable Updates is going to be, honestly, your best friend. It's become my best friend, and I really can't see another reason why you'd use something else. So now this is the final portion of any Stareable update. So you get to choose when you want it to go out. You've probably seen this before. It's a calendar. So this example, it's going out tomorrow at 4:53. I don't remember what I put in there. So I've decided that tomorrow at 4:53, I want to do something else, but I want to make sure that I'm posting. So that's where it goes. But then the other thing you'll see up here is, I don't know if you recognize these names, but these are all the people who are listed on my cast and crew list on the earlier part of that. So all of those people are now also connected to my Stareable page, which means that I now can decide who needs to be notified of this post, and they'll get an email as soon as it goes out. So really quickly, show of hands, how many of you are showrunners, producers style people? And how many of you have had to hunt down cast and crew members to get them to retweet something? Exactly. It's constantly frustrating because, as I think a panelist earlier, either today or yesterday, spoke about, no one is ever going to be as invested in your project as you are, especially at the end of post-production, because you're probably one of the only people left who's actually actively working on that, whereas your cast and crew might have moved on to 8 different projects. But it doesn't matter, because now what you do is, as soon as you schedule all of these posts, you can decide which people need to be notified of them. So that means that if I wanted to post these 3 things 3 months in the future, I can already set up who I think it's relevant to know about them, and then in 3 months, when those things post, everyone's going to get an email. I don't have to remember that I posted it. I don't have to remember who this is the most relevant to. I can just automate it fully, and Stareable will harass my cast and crew for me, which I think my cast and crew probably appreciates. So this is just another way that we're setting ourselves apart and specifically thinking about filmmakers when it comes to these things that you might have heard about before, but maybe not used because they aren't quite what you're looking for. Stareable is trying to be the filmmaker haven, so that the only place you need to go for marketing or distributing your content is one single link. So now let's get a little bit broader, because that's the platform, that's Stareable.com, that's our bread and butter, but we also have a number of other tools and resources that can help you become more successful creators. And so the first thing is our community forum, community.stareable.com. It's a forum, or more simply, it's Stareable Fest online. After a year and a half of having this forum and allowing people to have conversations with one another and ask for advice and collaborate and share resources and education, we realized a lot of these people really wanted to meet up in person, but they needed a reason. So the community forum is really, you know, Stareable Fest 1.0. And once you leave here, we don't want the party to stop, because we are party animals, and we believe that people create better, people succeed more when there are people supporting them. The community forum is especially powerful for that. I have gotten a number of filmmaking jobs because of people I've met and networked with on the community forum, so it can't be understated how important connecting with these filmmakers is going to be for you. We also have an archive of over 100 blog posts and interviews that are specifically targeted at a variety of filmmaking subjects. So this is just a handful of semi-recent ones, but if you have a question about filmmaking, we have probably answered it in blog format. And if we haven't, send me an email. But I also don't believe you, because we have 100 plus, I think we're probably closer to 200 at this point, archive of a blog with everything, every question you might have and more. But if reading isn't really your style, or you're looking for something to do more on your commute or late at night when you're like, I can't read anymore, we also have 2 seasons of a podcast called Forget the Box, which I hosted and interviewed a number of people who you might have actually seen this weekend. I've spoken to Alex LeMay and Bernie Sue and a number of other digital media experts about everything under the sun. You know, everything from directing advice to post-production advice to self-distribution advice. So if you're looking for an audio archive of things to just, you know, re-inspire you or teach you something about the crazy thing we're all doing here, highly recommend that, as well as our ongoing webinar series, which is seen next to there, where I stream live on either YouTube or Facebook Live to essentially deliver a presentation just like this, but you don't have to be in this extremely hot room. You can be at home in the AC in your pajamas. And at the end of my presentation, I open it up to questions, so that no matter where you are in the world, we can still be having a conversation, you can still be learning. And with that, are there any questions?